Ethiopia and Cuba have a long-time historic and diplomatic relations, which is consequential for having well-established connectivity between the two nations. Since the establishment of their bilateral relations in 1970s, the two countries have enjoyed excellent relations. Ethiopia has embassy in Havana. Cuba has also embassy in Addis Ababa. There were also frequent visits of government officials from both sides. People of the two countries have also special place for each other.
All Cubans know Ethiopia very well. They have a unique love for Ethiopia. It is very difficult to express the scale of their love for Ethiopia.
During the Ethio-Somali War in 1977, Cuban soldiers fought alongside the Ethiopian soldiers to defeat the invading force and protect the sovereignty of the country. The contribution of these soldiers had opened a new chapter in the Ethio-Cuban relations.
In the late 1970s, when Siad Barre of Somalia violated the territorial integrity of Ethiopia, no one would be cited as a witness of this historic event other than the late leader of Cuba, Brother Fidel Castro.
The Cuban government sent over 17,000 international soldiers to Ethiopia during the war between Ethiopia and Somalia, of which 163 had lost their invaluable life in Ethiopian soil. Ethiopia is always very grateful for such unforgettable sacrifices.
The people of Ethiopia never forget the great contribution of the government and people of Cuba. I therefore seize this opportunity to express my deep gratitude and sincere appreciation to Fidel and those Cuban gallant fighters, as well as all Cubans.
Cubans were present in Ethiopia during the 70s, supporting Ethiopia's struggle for sovereignty before the aggression from the Somalis at that time. So at that time, we have a lot of Cubans fighting in Ethiopia alongside the Ethiopian soldiers. 163 Cubans died in Ethiopian soil as internationalists.
At a time when others switched sides and we were alone, Ethiopia is alone at the time, more than 17,000 Cuban troops and advisors heralded their arrival to face our common enemy. Those Cuban heroes and heroines, alongside Ethiopian defense forces, bravely defended our country by paying the ultimate sacrifice. I want to say thank you to the distinguished Cuban internationalist combatants who have been with us shoulder to shoulder in Ethiopia in those very bad days of Ethiopia. And I also want to say thank you to all Cubans, to the government of Cuba, was led by the late Comrade Fidel Castro, on behalf of the people and government of Ethiopia and that of my own, and would like to reassure your determination to continue to honor the fallen Cuban soldiers by working diligently together for the realization of a better world where every mankind is granted with peace, equality, freedom, and happiness.
To commemorate the fallen heroes of Cuba, a monument was built at Addis Ababa. The area is called Ethio-Cuba Friendship Park. It represents economic and pragmatic relations between the two countries.
On November 25th, 2017, there was a photo exhibition in Addis Ababa to commemorate the first year of the passing away of Fidel Castro. The title was Fidel and Ethiopia, the ties sealed with blood. The main message delivered through this motto elucidates that Ethiopia and Cuba have bilateral relations furnished by people-to-people ties and a foundation cemented and sealed with blood. We have to put this reality as the center of principle of our relation and work hard for our common destiny.
We seize this opportunity to thank you, esteemed President, and the Ethiopian people for this solidarious gesture of building a monument in Addis Ababa for Cuban internationalists fallen in struggle, in battle, in the sister nation of Ethiopia, where eternal homage to their memory and generous contribution is paid to preserve the unity of Ethiopia before foreign aggression.
With the aim of further strengthening the old-age bilateral relations of the two countries, the Ethiopian delegation led by President Dr. Mulatu Teshome has paid an official working visit to Cuba.
It is a great pleasure and profound pride for me to be at this wreath-laying ceremony honoring Cuban fallen soldiers in Africa, to remember the courage and determination of the heroes and heroines of Cuba, who gave their precious life to uphold the great banner of freedom of our people and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of my country, Ethiopia in particular.
Cubans have started asking questions, wanting to know more about what is going on in Ethiopia. And of course, there are a lot of opportunities of cooperation between our two countries that have been exchanged between our presidents, and that will be followed up by our ministers and officials. So I'm sure that from now on, we will be seeing a lot more of Cuba in Ethiopia, and we will be learning a lot more about Ethiopia in Cuba. So I think definitely the visit has been very important for our bilateral relations. We are really happy, and we are sure that from now on, Cuba and Ethiopia will strengthen their relations.
Y nunca serán olvidados. Ocupan un sitial de honor.
We deeply thank your kind words of friendship and solidarity towards our people and governments, especially to those Cuban soldiers who fell in internationalist missions in Africa and Ethiopia in particular. They gave their lives to conquer independence and freedom for those brother and sister nations that will never be forgotten.
During its stay at Havana, the Ethiopian delegation has discussed with Cuban government officials and professionals on various issues.
The visit has two basic objectives. The first objective is discussing how to further strengthen the existing cooperation between the two countries. The second objective is discussing how the two countries cooperate and support each other on various international stages.
We have identified areas in which Ethiopia and Cuba could work together. The two countries can potentially cooperate on health, agriculture, and science and technology. So the Ethiopian delegation, which included the Minister of Science and Technology and Minister of Health, has paid a visit to Cuba. We've made sufficient preparations before the visit. During the visit, President Mulatu has held discussions with President Raul Castro.
Ethiopia aspires to diversify types of cooperation that has with Cuba in the years to come. The country needs the cooperation to focus mainly on the technology and skill transfer.
We don't need simple relations with Cuba. We need a strategic partnership and cooperation with the country, especially in health and science and technology. We can learn a lot from Cuba in this area. We need sustainable relations that can benefit both countries and people. Cuba has 50 universities. They are number one in higher education governance. As it lacks a lot in this area, Ethiopia can learn a lot. This is appreciated by many, including the World Bank.
They have a technology which suits the interests of our country. We can learn how to boost our capacity in technology from them. Its price is also very reasonable.
We have always been in cooperation in health, education, and many other fields. Cuba is very much involved in all Ethiopian struggles and programs for development, and we have, in our way, contribute also to improve potentials, giving education and training to a lot of Ethiopians that studied in Cuba. and that proudly consider themselves Ethio-Cubans in an Ethio-Cuban community. They are also part of Cuba's and Ethiopian long-standing relations.
Cuba has vast and accumulated knowledge in the health sector. The country has well-trained and capable medical doctors. They have also well-established and modern health system. During their stay in Cuba, the Ethiopian delegation has visited various health institutions of the country for reasons. Discussion was also held related to the health area.
Most of the time, we expect support from developed countries. But in our stay here in Cuba, we observed that there are many science and research outcomes which can bring significant change for the health of our patients. So the cooperation we could have with Cuba shouldn't be limited only to human resources. The cooperation should also focus on medical inputs, medicine, and others which are not in other countries. There are research findings in Cuba and few Latin American countries. We have to bring this into our health service provision to benefit patients.
The two countries mainly discussed how to cooperate on the health sector. Currently, there are 45 Cuban health professionals who are engaged in Ethiopian educational and research institutions. Again, over 19 Cuban technical and vocational professionals are teaching in various Ethiopian educational institutions. The Cuban government vowed to further strengthen and diversify such support to Ethiopia during the discussion of President Raul Castro and Ethiopian President Dr. Mulatu Teshome.
We have visited Cuba's health and science and technology institutions in which the two countries identified to cooperate in the years to come. We have also identified needed technologies which are cost-effective and sustainable for Ethiopia.
Having 100 million population, we can't afford importing drugs on a regular basis. The country spends $1.5 million to import medicine only. So the country is a huge market and we need to focus on import substitution. Once we satisfy Ethiopian market, we can export the surplus production.
Cuba has more than 90,000 medical doctors for 11 million populations. When it comes to Ethiopia, the number of medical doctors is ultimately not proportionate with the entire population. This is a huge gap. They have changed the reality through education.
Cuban health professionals developed better vaccine and medicine through researches. They can prepare project proposals with Ethiopian researchers and experts considering the Ethiopian existing situation in the sector. Cubans cannot significantly invest in Ethiopia as they have financial constraints, but they can work with Ethiopians for better results in the sector.
Ethiopia is well known for its livestock resources. However, the country has not been benefiting much from the sector due to the minimal quality of livestock caused by poor nutritional treatment of the livestock resources. The raising system is also very traditional. In this regard, the country has a lot to learn from Cuba.
Ethiopia owns a large number of livestock populations, so we have seen how we could support and improve the quality and productivity of the resource through technology. This includes animal nutrition, health and breeding.
The new areas on which the two countries need to cooperate include biomedical and bioengineering sectors. Both fields are very important to Ethiopia to realize the country's plan and ambition in health, agriculture and industry development projects. In this regard, the support of Cuban health and education professionals is very important. Ethiopia asked the support of Cuban government to realize this first. The Cuban President Raul Castro gave order his ministers to translate the need of Ethiopia into action shortly, in line with the details, which will be made soon between ministers of the two countries. So, the two countries agreed to scale up their old-age relations, which is sealed with blood, to the next high level, especially in economic and technology transfer.
In connection with science and technology field, we have visited how universities and research institutions can work together with the industry. And also we have observed how research undertakings drastically improved the economy by releasing and commercializing their products in the market.
እዚህ ሀገር ሌላው ያየነው የአሁን እኛ ሀገር ከመዥገር
The other thing we have seen is how to keep the health of our livestock, avoiding animal parasites. Due to disease caused by such parasites, significant amount of animal skins are not suitable for leather industry. Through vast research conducted in its universities, Cuba managed to overcome such challenge, getting improved medicine for the parasites. During our visit, we have seen how they overcome the challenge. We have also seen how their leather industry developed in their own way. Improving animal breeding and health is not the only thing we have learned from Cuba. We also emulated how the industry is highly connected to research and the economy.
While visiting biofarms, Cuban Minister of Health told us that his country has huge capacity in the field. Brazil is relatively an advanced country in science and technology and economy. But when outbreak happens, they were not ready to produce a vaccine.
Currently, there are over 4,000 Cuban experts who are engaged in the areas of health, agriculture, livestock, irrigation, road construction, and sugar development projects here in Ethiopia. After the visit of Ethiopian delegation to Cuba, more professionals of the country are keen to come and assist Ethiopians in different fields, especially in the health sector.
እዚህ ይሄንን ተሞክሮ ያላቸውን የተማሩ የነሱን ተመራማሪዎች ፕሮፌሰሮች ወደ ኢትዮጵያ መውሰድ የተወሰኑትን መውሰድ
Now the solution is bringing some professors and researchers who have accumulated experiences to Ethiopia. The second thing is taking their system of work to Ethiopia. We don't have to be consumer of technology all the time as a country. We have to reach the level in which we could produce technology. Of course, at this point we are consumer of technology. We can't go far in this way. It is the responsibility of Ethiopians to learn from Cubans and change the reality. We have to learn their working culture, system of work, and experiences. We have agreed to cooperate in the field while discussing Cuban Minister of Science and Technology. In this regard, Cuban professionals will come to Ethiopia in a few months' time. At that time, they will definitely show us how a country could develop through research. I hope we will largely benefit from this. We are recruiting Cuban professors so that they could provide teaching and medical services in Ethiopian university hospitals. Cuba has huge capacity in medical science, especially in vaccine development and technology, pharmaceutical sector. They have got vaccine for lung cancer. In the sector, they are much better than other countries.
Our priorities are vaccine development, clinical trials, detecting drug-resistant parasites, and producing modern medicine from traditional one. I hope the Cuban professionals will help us in the process.
Participants say the visit was very successful in many ways. They suggest similar frequent visits from both sides in the future.
Some of the agreements made during the visit will shortly be translated into action. So I can say that the visit was fruitful.
Ethiopia and Cuba's historic relation has paid up enormous sacrifices, laying a strong foundation for their unwavering economic and diplomatic attachment. The two countries are committed to cooperate on various fields to further strengthen their historic relation. If both nations translate what they agreed to cooperate into action, sooner their relation will definitely continue to grow.